Well, for me, the finding that we had in Kentucky was incredibly intriguing and also pretty shocking. The fact that I had collected a soil sample for eDNA.
The thing that became very evident during the daylight hours is that I start to notice that there are many of these large hollowed out tree stumps.
Cutting edge technology to aid them in their quest for evidence. We want to get the best specialists in the field, scientists, researchers, investigators, and we want to give them the latest technology.
And sent it to a very respected geneticist out at UCLA.
Controlled. The night air was thick with humidity, wrapping around her like a heavy cloak. The usual symphony of the wilderness, chirping crickets, rustling leaves, distant hoots of an owl, had fallen eerily silent. Something was watching. She froze, raising a hand to signal the team behind her. They all felt it now, that same unnerving stillness. No wind, no movement. Just an oppressive silence pressing in from all sides. Then, knock. A single deliberate sound echoed through the trees, then another answering from deeper within the forest. Mireya's pulse quickened. She had spent years studying primates, and she knew what this was. In the wild, gorillas and chimps use wood knocks to communicate. But they weren't in Africa. They were in North America, miles from civilization, tracking something that shouldn't exist. She signaled for the thermal drone operator to launch. The small machine hummed to life, lifting above the treetops, scanning the darkness below. The screen flickered, showing heat signatures, deer, small mammals, then suddenly a massive, upright figure moving through the trees. It was fast, weaving between trunks with an agility that defied its size. Mireya's heart pounded. There! Zoom in. The figure came into focus, a tall, broad shape moving on two legs, far larger than any human. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone, vanishing into the depths of the forest. Rushing toward the last known location, they found the footprints. 17 inches long, deep impressions in the damp earth. Mireya knelt beside them, running her fingers over the edges. The shape was unmistakable, a primate footprint, but unlike any known species. Her team collected hair samples tangled in a low-hanging branch, bagging them carefully for DNA analysis. The preliminary results sent a chill down her spine. The sample contained primate markers, but no exact match to any known species. She exhaled, staring out into the trees. If this was what she thought it was, then everything people had dismissed as folklore, as myth, might not be a story after all. Something is out here, she whispered, and we just got closer than anyone ever has. Dr. Mireya Mayor wasn't someone who chased after myths. She was a scientist, a primatologist with a sharp mind and a history of groundbreaking discoveries. Yet, here she was, deep in the dense forests of North America, following the trail of a creature that had been whispered about for centuries. For generations, Native American tribes had spoken of a massive, hidden being that roamed the wilderness, a guardian of the land that kept to the shadows. These stories had endured, passed down from elders to children, never fading despite the march of time. Skeptics brushed them off as legend, but to Mireya, stories, especially ones that persisted across cultures and centuries, often held a kernel of truth. The problem had always been proof. Photos and videos surfaced all the time, grainy, shaky clips of towering figures in the distance. Footprints too large to be faked, hair samples that didn't match any known species. But no matter how compelling, something was always missing. The evidence wasn't definitive, and the many hoaxes over the years had made it even harder to separate fact from fiction. That's what made Mireya's search different. She wasn't here to chase stories, she was here for science. And as she pushed forward through the thick undergrowth, tracking something massive that had left deep impressions in the earth, she had the unsettling feeling that this time she was about to find more than just another tale. Dr. Mireya Mayor knew that if she was going to be taken seriously, she had to do everything by the book. Too many before her had claimed to see Bigfoot, only to be dismissed as hoaxers or conspiracy theorists. She wasn't about to let that happen. This was science. And if the creature was out there, she was determined to find real, undeniable proof. Her team wasn't relying on shaky phone videos or blurry trail cam images. They had brought old-style 16mm cameras, technology known for capturing clear, high-quality footage. If they did encounter Bigfoot, there would be no room for doubt. The journey into the forest was no small task. Out here, there were no city lights, no background noise, just miles of towering trees, rugged mountains, and roads that stretched endlessly into the unknown. The isolation was almost overwhelming, the silence pressing. Mireya had spent years in some of the most remote locations on Earth, but there was something different about this. Something unsettling. She had thought about what it would be like to come face to face with Bigfoot. The stories described it as a towering figure, over 7 feet tall, weighing more than 1,200 pounds, covered in thick fur, moving with unnatural speed and strength. Some accounts described intelligence, something behind those deep-set eyes that watched and understood more than any ordinary animal. If the stories were true, this wasn't just a creature, it was something more. The team had mapped out potential hotspots, places where sightings had been reported and strange evidence had been found. They moved carefully, scanning the dense wilderness for anything out of place. Twisted branches, footprints too large to be from any known animal, makeshift structures that looked almost like shelters. But they knew their best chance wasn't during the day. If Bigfoot existed, it was a creature of the night. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the temperature dropped and the shadows deepened. Equipped with night vision and thermal cameras, the team stepped into the darkness, their senses on high alert. Every rustle in the underbrush, every distant snap of a branch sent adrenaline surging through their veins. Something was out there, watching, waiting. And for the first time, Dr. Mireya Mayor felt like she was on the verge of discovering the truth. The team moved carefully, every step deliberate. In the deep wilderness, even a misplaced footfall could give them away. The night pressed in around them, thick with unseen movement. But they had an advantage: thermal imaging cameras. These weren't just any cameras. They could detect heat signatures in total darkness, revealing what the human eye couldn't see. It was like having a kind of supernatural vision capable of piercing the void. Hours passed as they swept the forest, their cameras scanning the endless maze of trees. Then something flickered on the screen. A heat signature, large, humanoid, and partially obscured by the thick foliage. A jolt of adrenaline shot through the team. Could this be it, the moment they had been chasing for so long? They moved cautiously, trying to get a clearer view. The shape remained still at first, as if watching them in return. The camera picked up distinct features, broad shoulders, an immense frame, and what seemed to be glowing eyes reflecting in the thermal readout. The excitement was electric, but so was the underlying fear. For the first time, they weren't looking at blurry photographs or hearing secondhand stories. This was real. The team huddled around the screen, whispering urgently, was it Bigfoot or something else entirely? The tension was suffocating. Every instinct screamed at them to be ready for anything. Then the forest erupted with sound. A deep guttural noise rolled through the trees, impossibly loud, reverberating in their chests. It wasn't just a sound. It was a presence. Just as they thought they were close to answers, the unknown pulled them in deeper. Dr. Mireya Mayor and her team pressed forward, their every step measured against the weight of the unknown. The dense forest, once a living symphony of chirping insects and rustling leaves, now carried an eerie silence, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Then something shifted. A deep resonant sound rolled through the trees, unlike anything they had ever heard before. It wasn't a wolf's howl or the distant hoot of an owl. It was guttural, layered, and almost deliberate. The team froze. A flicker on the thermal camera caught their attention. Up high, too high. Something large, radiating heat, was perched among the thick branches above them. Their breath came in shallow, controlled gasps as they adjusted the camera for a clearer view. Eyes, two glowing orbs reflected back at them, unmoving, locked onto their position. Whatever it wasn't running. It was watching. The thought sent a shiver through the team. If this was Bigfoot, it wasn't behaving like the shy, elusive creature people had described. It had taken to the trees, observing them from above, moving with an intelligence that didn't fit the image of a simple wild animal. A low, almost clicking growl came from the shadows above. The team's instincts screamed at them to back away, to put distance between themselves and the thing in the canopy. But their mission, their purpose, demanded they stay. Dr. Mayor took a steadying breath. If this was the evidence they had been searching for, they needed to capture it before it disappeared like all the others before it. The forest held its secrets close, but for the first time it felt as though something in the dark wanted to be seen. The forest closed in around them, thick with fog and the scent of damp earth. Every step felt heavier, their boots sinking into the soft ground as they pushed forward, eyes locked on the fading heat signature. It moved with an uncanny grace, too fast for a bear, too deliberate for any known predator. Dr. Mireya Mayor's heart pounded in her chest. She had spent years studying the unexplained, but nothing had ever felt this. Real. The team exchanged nervous glances, silently questioning whether they were chasing a breakthrough or walking straight into danger. A branch snapped ahead. Everyone froze. The sound wasn't random. It was sharp, deliberate, like a warning. Then came the growl. Not the deep, guttural roar of a bear, nor the yipping cry of a coyote. This was different. It rumbled through the trees, vibrating in their chests, a sound so layered and unnatural it sent chills down their spines. Through the shifting shadows, movement, something massive loomed just beyond the trees, its outline barely visible through the thick fog. A dark shape, standing taller than any man, its presence almost too large for the space it occupied. The team's thermal cameras flickered as they struggled to capture the figure, the heat signature shifting as if the very air around it warped and twisted. Dr. Mayor felt an instinctual dread clawing at her, an unshakable sense that they were standing at the edge of something beyond their understanding. Then, as quickly as it had come, the presence retreated. A sudden rush of movement, the sound of heavy footfalls crashing through the underbrush, and then silence. The team stood frozen, their breath visible in the cold night air. Had they just encountered Bigfoot? Or was it something else? Whatever it was, it had watched them first, assessed them, decided, and it had left, for now. The deeper the team ventured into the logging site, the more the forest seemed to close in around them. Towering trees stood like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches forming a twisted canopy overhead. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, but beneath it lurked something else, something metallic, almost electric, as if the very atmosphere was charged with an unseen presence. The ground was uneven, littered with decaying leaves and tangled roots that threatened to trip even the most careful step. Every movement felt amplified in the stillness. There was no wind rustling the branches, no chirp of crickets or distant calls of nocturnal birds. It was as though the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting. Near the heart of the site, several massive trees had been knocked over in a precise triangular formation. The sight sent a chill down their spines. Trees did not fall like this naturally. There were no signs of wind damage, no uprooted stumps or fractured limbs from a recent storm. The breaks in the wood were too clean, too deliberate. The sheer force required to snap trunks of this size suggested an unimaginable strength, far beyond what any known animal could achieve. The thermal cameras hummed softly as they scanned the tree line, casting an eerie blue glow against the surrounding darkness. The team moved cautiously, each step calculated, careful not to disturb the scene. The oppressive sensation of being watched had settled over them like a heavy weight prickling against their skin. Then, beneath the scattered foliage, something caught their attention, indentations in the soft earth. Large, deep impressions, too defined to be the result of erosion or settling ground. Footprints, each track dwarfed the size of a human foot, pressed so deeply into the soil that whatever had left them must have been immensely heavy. The spacing between the prints suggested a long, deliberate stride, covering ground with an efficiency no ordinary creature could match. There were no claw marks, no signs of a dragging tail, only the distinct outline of enormous humanoid-like feet. A cold gust of wind suddenly rippled through the trees, stirring the leaves with a whispering rustle. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees in an instant, and with it came a sound, low, guttural, resonating from somewhere in the thick shadows beyond their reach. The noise was unlike anything they had encountered before. It wasn't the sharp cry of a coyote or the distant hoot of an owl. This was deeper, more primal. A slow, deliberate exhalation, as if something massive was exhaling in the darkness, aware of their presence. A heavy shift in the underbrush sent a jolt of fear through the team. The movement was controlled, neither a startled animal fleeing nor the careless rustling of the wind. It was measured, purposeful. Something was watching them. Thermal imaging caught it first. A vague outline, massive in scale, standing just beyond the veil of trees. Heat pulsed from its form, its presence undeniable against the cold night air. Two faint, glowing points, eyes, stared back through the screen, locked onto them with an unnerving awareness. For a moment, everything stood still. Then, without warning, the figure moved. Not with the lumbering gait of a bear or the hesitant retreat of a deer, but with impossible swiftness, vanishing into the shadows as if it had never been there at all. The rustling branches settled, The underbrush stilled, and the forest returned to its unnatural silence. The team stood frozen, hearts pounding against their ribs. The sensation of being watched had not left them. If anything, it had intensified. Somewhere out in the depths of the wilderness, something was waiting, watching. And for the first time, they had proof. The riverbed stretched before them, its shallow waters reflecting the dim glow of the moon. Smooth stones jutted out from the current, their surfaces slick with moisture. The air was cool, laced with the scent of damp earth and moss, and every step they took sent a soft crunch through the quiet. It had been hours since their last significant find, but now something had changed. The thermal camera hummed softly in their hands, its display flickering with movement. A heat signature pulsed on the screen, large and unmistakable. It was moving. Excitement and unease coursed through the team as they carefully followed the shifting figure. Whatever it wasn't standing still. The signal weaved through the trees with fluid precision, navigating the uneven terrain with ease. This wasn't the erratic scampering of a deer or the heavy plodding of a bear. It was deliberate, controlled. A sudden reflection flickered in the darkness. 2 glowing pinpoints caught in the light of their flashlights' eyes. Mireya stiffened. She had seen them first, a brief flash of illumination before the creature shifted just beyond the reach of their beams. The air grew thick with tension. The team stood frozen, gripping their equipment tightly, every breath shallow. The eyes blinked once, then they were gone. The forest swallowed the figure whole, leaving only the rhythmic rustling of disturbed underbrush in its wake. The team exchanged glances, the weight of their discovery settling over them. This wasn't just a fleeting shadow or an indistinct mass of heat. Something had looked back at them. Their minds raced. The broken trees, the heat signatures, the eerily intelligent movement, each clue stacked upon the last, forming a chilling picture. They weren't chasing a mere myth. They weren't alone. As the night deepened, so did their sense of both wonder and unease. The unseen presence hadn't left. It was still out there, watching, waiting. With a reluctant sense of finality, they began to gather their equipment. Their search had come to an end for now, but they knew they would return. They had ventured deep into something extraordinary, something science had yet to fully explain, and now they were more determined than ever to uncover the truth. The forest, vast and unyielding, held its secrets close, but for the first time the team felt closer than ever to unlocking one of its greatest mysteries. Seemed too high off the ground to belong to any known predator. A mountain lion or bear wouldn't hold its gaze at that level, nor would it move with such smooth precision. The realization sent a chill through the group. Whatever they had seen wasn't something that fit into the natural order of the forest. Their minds raced with questions. Was it truly Bigfoot? Had they come closer than any other researchers before them? The warm spots, the broken trees, the eerie silence that seemed to hang around them. It all pointed to something watching, something intelligent. Still, they knew they couldn't linger. The deeper they ventured into the woods, the more they risked becoming lost, and with the night stretching on, their path back was becoming harder to trace. Each step was careful, measured, their flashlights cutting through the thick shadows. The sounds of the forest had shifted. Earlier, the usual nighttime chorus of insects and distant animal calls had been present. Now the silence pressed down on them like a heavy weight. It was as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting. Every so often, they stopped to listen, their ears straining for any sign of movement. At one point, a soft but deliberate snap of a branch echoed through the trees. It wasn't the random crack of falling debris, it had weight behind it, as if something large had shifted its position. Mireya adjusted the thermal camera again, scanning the dense tree line. The heat signature was gone, but an uneasy feeling remained. Had whatever it was moved beyond their range, or was it deliberately avoiding detection? The team pressed on, their determination stronger than their fear. They hadn't come this far to turn back empty-handed. If Bigfoot was truly out there, they were closer than ever to finding proof. Despite the tension, excitement bubbled beneath their nerves. They were on the edge of something monumental. With every snapped twig and distant rustle, they knew they were pushing further into an unsolved mystery, one that had haunted the forests for centuries. As dawn neared and the sky began to lighten, they finally saw the break in the trees that led back to their starting point. Relief washed over them, but so did an undeniable sense of unfinished business. They had captured glimpses, shadows, and hints of something extraordinary. But the true answer still lay hidden in the depths of the wilderness. And they would be back. The discovery of the nests had already raised questions, but the presence of unknown hairs took the investigation to another level. If these samples didn't match any known species, what kind of creature could have left them behind? The possibility that they had stumbled upon physical evidence of an undocumented primate or something even more mysterious set their determination ablaze. The team knew that a deeper analysis would be necessary, but they also recognized that physical evidence alone wouldn't be enough. They needed more than just strands of hair. They needed undeniable proof of Bigfoot's existence. With this in mind, they expanded their search radius, using every tool available to track movement in the dense forest. During the next few nights, they set up an array of motion-activated cameras around the nest site, hoping to capture footage of whatever creature had built them. They also placed sound recorders in different areas to capture any vocalizations that might indicate the presence of a large, unknown animal. The dense woods of Northern California had a long history of strange calls echoing through the trees at night, low, guttural sounds that didn't match any known predator. If they could capture one of these vocalizations, it would add another layer to their findings. As they continued their search, they discovered large footprints near one of the nests, partially pressed into the damp soil. These prints were unlike those of bears or other large mammals known to roam the forest. The impressions were deep, suggesting something with considerable weight had passed through. The shape was also distinct, long, with toes that splayed slightly, resembling the classic footprint associated with Bigfoot sightings. The team took precise measurements and made castings of the prints, ensuring they had solid records for further analysis. The excitement of these discoveries was tempered by a growing awareness that something, or someone, might be aware of their presence. On multiple occasions, the team reported feeling watched, an unsettling sensation that made them question whether they were the hunters or the hunted. One night, as they reviewed the footage from the motion cameras, they found something strange. A few frames captured an upright figure moving through the trees at a distance. Though the image was partially obscured by thick vegetation, the silhouette was unmistakable, tall, broad-shouldered, and seemingly covered in hair. Unlike a bear standing on its hind legs, the figure's proportions were different, more human-like, yet undeniably massive. The footage wasn't clear enough to be conclusive, but it was enough to fuel their resolve. They had come too close to turn back now. As they ventured deeper into the forest, following the faint trail of broken branches and disturbances in the undergrowth, they knew they were on the verge of something extraordinary. The question remained, would they find Bigfoot before Bigfoot found them? The sight of the flattened clearing sent a wave of excitement through the team. The area was large, much bigger than what any known forest animal would need to rest. The impressions in the grass suggested that something heavy had been there recently. Could it have been a resting place for the elusive creature they were tracking? Carefully, they examined the site, looking for any additional clues. They spotted more footprints leading away from the clearing, some of them partially covered by fallen leaves. The size and shape were consistent with the prints they had previously cast. Nearby, a few snapped branches hung limply, their breaks fresh and jagged as if something massive had brushed past them. As they gathered evidence, a chilling realization settled over the group. Whatever had been here was not far away. They felt the weight of unseen eyes upon them, a sensation that made every movement feel deliberate and cautious. The forest, so alive with the rustling of leaves and the distant calls of animals, suddenly felt eerily quiet, as if it too was waiting for something. Determined to push forward, the team set up motion sensors around the clearing, hoping to catch any movement in the area. They also placed more thermal cameras at different angles, ensuring that if anything large returned, it wouldn't go unnoticed. As night fell once again, the forest took on a different atmosphere. The usual sounds of nocturnal creatures seemed muted, replaced by an unsettling stillness. Then, in the distance, a deep, resonant call echoed through the trees. It was unlike anything they had heard before, too low to be a wolf, too powerful to belong to any bird or known mammal. The sound sent a shiver through the group. They listened, waiting. Moments later, a second call rang out, this time closer. The team members exchanged nervous glances, their breaths held in anticipation. The call was not alone. Soft rustling came from the direction of the clearing, followed by a faint but deliberate snapping of twigs. Something was moving, and it was moving toward them. With cameras ready, they focused their attention on the darkness, their flashlights scanning the thick trees. The thermal sensors picked up a heat signature, large and upright, partially obscured by the dense foliage. The figure stood still for a moment before shifting, its glowing form disappearing behind the trees. Heart pounding, the team held their ground. They had come too far to retreat now. Whatever was out there, they were closer than ever to finding it. Their journey had been filled with moments of excitement, fear, and frustration, but as they sorted through their evidence, a pattern began to emerge. The heat signatures, the unusual footprints, the massive, unexplained nest-like structures, each clue pointed toward the presence of something unusual in the depths of the Northern California wilderness. The soil and plant samples they collected were sent to specialized labs for DNA analysis. If there were any biological traces left behind, hair, skin cells, or even saliva, it could provide the breakthrough they needed. The strange hairs found in the nests remained an enigma, their structure not matching any known species cataloged in their databases. Some researchers theorized that they could belong to an unidentified primate, while others remained skeptical, arguing that contamination or misidentification was a possibility. The video footage was reviewed frame by frame. The glowing eyes captured on thermal cameras stood out as one of the most compelling pieces of evidence. Their spacing and height from the ground suggested something massive, far larger than a bear or any known predator in the area. The recorded sounds were analyzed as well, low, guttural calls that didn't match any documented wildlife. Audio specialists compared them to known animal sounds, but no definitive match was found. Despite the inconclusive results, the team's conviction only grew stronger. Their findings suggested that something was out there, something that evaded clear detection but left behind traces of its existence. The skeptics would demand more proof, but the team knew they had something worth pursuing. Determined to continue their search, they began preparing for their next expedition. They planned to bring even more advanced tracking equipment, higher resolution thermal cameras, long-range motion sensors, and drones equipped with infrared vision. This time they would expand their search area, venturing into even deeper, more remote parts of the forest where few had dared to explore. As they packed up their gear, one thought remained at the forefront of their minds: they were closer than ever before. The answer was out there, waiting to be uncovered. It was only a matter of time before Bigfoot, if it truly existed, would no longer be a legend but a documented reality. The idea that something in the forest could produce a scream so human-like yet unnatural was deeply unsettling. The witness, a seasoned lumber worker, described the sound as shrill and agonized, echoing through the trees with an intensity that sent shivers down the spines of those who heard it. According to his account, the workers had been cutting timber deep in the woods when the chilling noise rang out. At first they thought it might be a mountain lion, but the sound carried an unmistakable human-like quality, long, drawn-out wails filled with distress. The men had dropped their tools and fled toward their trucks, refusing to go back into the woods until morning. By then there was no sign of what had caused the noise, but the fear in their eyes was enough to convince Mireya and her team that something unusual had happened. This new lead only deepened their curiosity. If Bigfoot, or something else, was responsible for these screams, what was its purpose? Was it a warning, an attempt to communicate, or something more sinister? They decided to revisit the site where the incident had taken place, hoping to find any traces left behind. As they arrived at the abandoned logging area, an eerie silence hung in the air. The forest, usually alive with the rustling of leaves and distant calls of birds, seemed unnaturally still. It was as if the land itself held its breath, waiting. The team spread out cautiously, scanning the ground for tracks, hair, or any sign of disturbance. Near the edge of the clearing, Mireya noticed something odd. Large impressions in the soft earth, spaced far apart as though something heavy had moved through with long strides. The footprints were wider than those of a bear, and unlike anything they had ever encountered. Bryce, another team member, used a measuring tape to record their size while Mireya carefully cast one of the prints in plaster. If they were genuine, they could provide crucial evidence to support their search. Suddenly the air shifted. A low, guttural noise rumbled through the trees, distant yet unmistakably real. The team froze, hearts pounding, as they exchanged nervous glances. The sound wasn't quite human, nor did it resemble any known animal cry. It carried an unsettling resonance, almost vibrating in their chests. Then, just as suddenly as it came, the forest fell silent again. The team stood still, ears straining for any further sign of movement. Was it a trick of the wind? Or had they just heard the same chilling noise that had sent those lumber workers running in fear? Mireya tightened her grip on her camera, her pulse racing. Whatever was out there, it was watching them, and it was close. The eerie wail still echoed in their minds. Was it an animal, something unknown? Or perhaps even someone in distress? The uncertainty weighed on Mireya and her team, pushing them to investigate further. Their search led them to Prince of Wales Island, an isolated and untamed wilderness in Alaska. This remote, rugged terrain seemed like the perfect hiding place for a creature as elusive as Bigfoot. With vast, uncharted forests and a sparse human population, Alaska remained one of the last true frontiers. It was a land where nature ruled, where towering trees and endless stretches of wilderness created an environment few had explored in depth. For a creature like Bigfoot, this was the ultimate sanctuary. Determined to uncover the truth behind the unsettling reports, the team set their sights on a secluded 60-acre stretch of land deep in the mountains. The area, not far from the lumber site where the chilling screams had been heard, had a long history of strange occurrences. As they flew over the dense canopy, Mireya couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to step into something far greater than just another Bigfoot investigation. She referred to this place as the Galapagos of the North, a thriving ecosystem teeming with healthy predators and an even larger population of prey. Setting up base camp, the team meticulously prepared their equipment, thermal imaging cameras, sound recorders, and motion-triggered sensors. Every piece of gear was calibrated to ensure that no anomaly, no movement, no sound would go unnoticed. They weren't just chasing shadows anymore. They were on the brink of something significant, something that could either confirm their greatest hopes or deepen the mystery even further. Was Mireya Mayor's discovery the proof the world had been waiting for? Or was it yet another chapter in the endless search for the truth? The answer lay hidden in the depths of Alaska's wilderness, waiting to be found.